blast from the grassroots, connecting people and sharing ideas.
Hey, welcome back. This is Arlene.
And this is Grace.
Today in our Blast from the Grassroots segment, we have a guest. He's going to share with us the coffee culture in Kuala Lumpur. We have Joachim Leong. I would say he's a coffee enthusiast at CafeHopMY. Hi, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, hi guys.
And of course, you also brought along your partner in crime. That is a bit too shy to be on radio.
Yeah, Shen's here in the studio as well. She's just going to watch out whether I'm going overboard if the ideas or whatever.
Yeah, don't talk about tea, just coffee.
Okay.
So actually, in fact, Malaysia has this interesting culture that has been established.
It's sprouting quite rapidly. You know, in the past, it's just, I would say, the Starbucks culture. Like, everyone will
Like
go to
Starbucks
Starbucks.
coffee beans or white coffee.
And before Starbucks, you will be like kopitiam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and especially it's spreading rapidly among youngsters in KL.
But now seems like young people they see Starbucks as just another commercial, and they want something that is more boutique, like as in like that has its
with
own
the nice
character.
vibe, but yeah,
This
exactly.
is where you come in. You also have your own like idea about like a small boutique coffee shop.
Yes, Arlene. So I think there's this idea which has been proposed of how to interpret what's going on, not only in the Malaysian market, but also what's going on around the world. Actually, there is a boom in terms of coffee and cafes, and the way to look at it is a different waves of coffee shops. So in Malaysia, we have the first wave of coffee shops, which were the kopitiams, because the Hainanese, when it came, they opened coffee shops serving their interpretations of chicken chop and poached eggs and all that. So that was very interesting, and we still see that today, and you see even businesses opening chains based on that idea as well. And then recently in the 1990s, you had the second wave, which was when Delhi, France, all the chains came in, Starbucks, San Francisco, Coffee Bean, Tea and Leaf. So that was the second wave of cafes, and a lot of people, that was your first experience drinking espresso-based coffees, Italian-style coffee. And then
Not your Kluang coffee or Hang Tuah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or not even your 3-in-1s.
Very local coffee.
Yeah, so
Because my mom my mom used to make Kluang coffee and Hang Tuah coffee. You know, all this like very localized coffee.
Yeah, and that's a style of coffee which we all still enjoy to this day.
Of course.
Yeah, and so now recently what you see is this third wave of coffee shops coming up in the last 2-3 years, and it's a huge boom as well. And that's where our project CafeHopMY was trying to map out all the independent cafes around Malaysia. So the H word comes to mind. I think everyone's thinking of that hipster word. But I think what it basically means is these cafes are trying to do something different compared to what we have seen so far in the market. But what's interesting is you see a bit of similarities going on the last year or so among the cafes. But yeah, it's just it comes with also the artisanal food movement. They're trying to kind of go back to the origins of the coffee. Where is it from? And giving more kind of respect to the work which goes into the coffee.
Do you see like more people are abandoning those big coffee chains like Starbucks? I mean, partly because of ethical, not ethical, but principle, like you don't want to support those kind of like monopoly industries. But do you think people are also abandoning those like big chain coffee shops because they want that authentic experience?
I think there is. I mean, if you do talk to some of these people coming in these shops, they do kind of have a dislike towards chain coffee. But at the same time, if you go to chain coffees, they may be people who may not like the independent cafe experience either. So it goes both ways. And at the end of the day, the reason why these independent cafes actually survive, and actually a lot of the baristas in the independent cafes actually had a background in the chain cafes. So it's not as a zero-sum game as people think. But it's quite interesting to see how things are evolving along the way.
In my perspectives, right, all those main chains like Starbucks and Coffee Bean, they don't lose their popularity just because all these other newcomers are coming up in town, because they're very professional, so they know how to maintain their clients
Definitely.
by promoting the products, and then to sell their other types of, like, products related to coffee, or for example, their jars, there are even mug cups. They are really beautiful, and even Starbucks, they are selling their own cards. To top up their money and then buy coffee from there. It's very convenient. Yeah. So in that way, they are also rolling their brains to maintain their clients in their own ways. Yeah.
That's true. But personally, I'm kind of pro local stuff, meaning that I really love seeing local young people, just being an entrepreneur and really invest their skills, their talent, their know-how on things like coffee, for example. Because to me, if we rely too much on these big chains, especially for us, like a coffee enthusiast, I feel it can somehow kill that authentic origin of why people go to cafe in the first place. Like, for example, I go to cafe because I like to enjoy, like, my time, just sipping coffee, maybe go online or read a book and just enjoy that authentic environment where I can just relax. But that's how I enjoy being in a cafe. I'm not sure you guys, how do you enjoy?
I started like that as well. Going to cafes just for some alone time, chill time, yeah. Or you just wanted to catch up with some work and you wanted something quiet. But what happened eventually was more baristas were talking to me as I came back to the cafe. They started engaging me, talking to me about coffee, and I got more interested in the coffee, and that's how I got into the path I'm going down right now. And that's for me is what makes it more authentic. You have a personal interaction, which is at the end of the day, urban life can be a bit lonely. It's a bit tough. I think some people come to the city and they have nothing much to look forward to, and we see that in some customers who come through the cafe as well. They're just looking for a place to hang out, chill, meet people, just a friend, just to make a connection, and that's where independent cafes can actually help fill the gap. Yeah.
Fill the gap of mama, I guess.
Yeah. But then from my experience, right, the reason people do go to a cafe is because of the internet access as well. That we can't ignore.
Yeah, you cannot get internet access
with
in
the
mama.
sipping of coffee. Yes, reading a book is another culture. But then with all those electronic devices development, right? People want to go online while they can enjoy the coffee at the same time. So there's a lot of cafes in the KL. They do have all this internet access. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, actually, Grace, because what you see now in the new 7-Elevens is actually they're building more space to people to hang out.
Yes, they're developing.
With free internet as well.
Yeah.
So
and with cheap coffee, of course.
Yeah, cheap. You can even buy like a Mentos and sit there, I guess. But I think what the independent cafes are doing is actually improving the overall experience for everyone in the retail or F&B outlet as well. 7-Eleven is upping their game. Even Starbucks and certain F&B are changing their decor, trying to keep up with times, because the indies are the new cool kids in town. And I think it goes both ways too. I think Grace, you mentioned about how the service and all the consistency in chains are definitely there, and that's something independent cafes can learn from as well. So I think it's not really a zero-sum game. I think it goes both ways. It's something to learn from each other, and it's quite interesting to see Starbucks also trying to do more in terms of the farmers and all, because of what's happening. As they see more customers go towards indie culture and indie cafe, helping the farmers, looking at improving the supply chain, making farmers' lives better. It all works towards a better thing. I feel that competition is actually a very good way to get people to improve their service, improve their product. Yeah.
Of course, always the healthy competition is the best way to improve their services and all. And then it's very interesting because with the increasing number of cafes, you can actually even visit the corner of shop in KL and you can find a really beautiful place. It's just a very small space, and then the coffees there is amazing. And then one of the reasons people do go for coffee is not only because of taste, but also because of the art.
That's true. I got really inspired when I went to Vietnam. the cafe culture is very vibrant. Like in every corner of the street, you can see like small, authentic, boutique-looking coffee shop.
And vintage-ish.
Yeah,
like
and you get that whole experience going
Exactly.
on. You just feel that you just want to chill and be alone and or be with a friend and do some nice chatting. But with your Cafe Hop Malaysia, is it called Cafe Hop Malaysia?
CafeHopMY.
CafeHopMY.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I pronounced it too long. So are you looking at recreating that similar experiences what we see in our neighboring countries?
With CafeHopMY, I think the story behind it is as I was going around visiting cafes and taking pictures and sharing, and people were suddenly asking me questions like, hey, where's this cafe? Where's that cafe? Where is this, Joe? Where can I get that? So, I got a bit, okay, maybe there is demand for this. Maybe I'll make a Google map. I just planted where all these cafes were, so helping people where to find it. And then, hey, actually other countries like London and Melbourne, they were actually producing maps of where to find these cafes. I mean, the thing about indie cafes is that they have a struggle against getting prime real estate. Obviously, Starbucks and all the other chains, they are invited to
So
be.
usually they will be at the very obscure.
It's not. It's not really. It is deliberate, but. Because out of no choice, they're trying to look for lower rent, somewhere quieter, somewhere more hidden.
And then they can invest more on the coffee.
Exactly.
If they don't have to pay a high rent or a high interior decoration.
Yeah.
A lot of them even reuse some old furnitures in order for them to.
The pallets, yes.
in order for them to cover up the cost.
Yep.
Yeah. With you, do you have a vision like that?
Well, opening an independent cafe is quite tough. I mean, most leases last for 2-3 years, so. This at the end of the day, independent cafes, while they're trying to be authentic and doing what they do, rent is obviously a concern. And at the end of those 2-3 months, what you see in Singapore, where they also had the boom of independent cafes, a lot of cafes end up moving or closing down. So it's a struggle, constant struggle to pay the bills, keep the quality up, and also kind of survive. It's not easy.
I don't know whether you're aware. A bit later on, we will talk more about the coffee. Just about coffee, but
Okay.
I just want to ask you. I don't know whether you're aware, because yesterday we talked about startups in our Blast from the Grassroots, and that person actually had a background in magic, not not magic as per magic. So the government has this initiative to somehow grow to make sure that there are a healthy number of entrepreneurs in Malaysia and help them to grow. And I'm not sure the longer name from magic, but it's somehow something to do with creativity, innovation.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is somehow an event plus academic and plus fun source center. But what do you think the government can do better to help like young people like you guys to push your startups or in this case your coffee venture?
I think that I think it's not so much about helping the independent cafes. I think we sometimes rely too much on the government. I mean, there is one thing which comes to mind, which is actually our roasters in Malaysia are operating on the back foot compared to other roasters within the region, and it is simply because we have an AP system for green beans coming in. Because before you can roast the beans, you need the green beans, the raw ingredients, and the background for this is because in Malaysia we grow our own coffee, so they wanted to protect this local coffee, called Liberica, and they've imposed an AP system. So whoever wants to start roasting will have to get an AP and then have to meet. Let's say you get AP for a few tons, you have to meet the requirement for a few tons of coffee, and there's no demand for this, and it's really tough for not even. I'm not even talking about your bigger roasters. I'm talking about the small home roasters, people who want to know more about coffee, roast your own coffee. You need an AP to bring in coffee beans into Malaysia, and that is a regulatory roadblock for people to get to know more about coffee, because roasting or coffee is also part of the journey of making coffee.
Would you say so? The coffee is actually Western culture.
Actually, it's more like I would say it's more like Arabic culture, or
because tea is definitely Asian culture, except from England. But then to me, coffee is always the Western culture, and all these Asian countries, they are heavily influenced by Western culture. Not only when it comes to coffee, but even fashion and their lifestyle.
But I guess when you talk about the
So,
modern coffee culture, definitely it has that
so do
that
we have the
Starbucks
Western
flavor to it, that modern coffee chain flavor. But if you are talking the older generation on how, like hundreds of years ago, how coffee are being
But
used
then,
as
even
a
then,
daily
those coffee were
consumption
introduced by
drink.
Western people.
It's actually interesting because it's introduced by the Arabs. So there's this coffee bean called Arabica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, coffee is a fascinating subject. I mean, to see how it. I mean, I think Grace is right in saying that yes, the coffee trees they came from Ethiopia. Actually, Ethiopia is the birthland of coffee. That's where all the coffee plants around the world originated from. Interestingly, that's where some people claim where humanity also originated from. Yeah. And what happened is the Arab traders did help spread the coffee as well, and they started coffee drinking quite much earlier on. And this culture did spread because of colonialism, as a lot of ideas spread colonialism from the Western powers. And that's that. And what's interesting is it evolves. The coffee drinking culture evolves wherever it goes. If you go anywhere in Europe, it's different. The names they call the coffee, and then the Arabs drink it differently. The Vietnamese drink it differently on their.
And in some
cheaper,
countries, because they are so enthusiastic about their own coffee, that they really ban international chains like Starbucks. Like certain countries, they don't even have Starbucks because they want to protect the local farmers, the local coffee baristas and entrepreneurs.
The only issue I have with that is that obviously I think banning is not necessarily the best way. One case study would be how the independent cafe culture worked in Australia. So in Australia, if I give some background about specialty coffee, the higher quality coffee, New Zealand was ahead of the whole world in terms of really specialty coffee. They were doing awesome lattes. They came out with their own drink, flat whites, but what happened was Australia caught up with them. And this is because of a few reasons. One is because there was a sharing culture among the baristas, among the cafe owners, among the roasters. So information was flowing very fast within the community of coffee people. So that's one thing. Obviously, grassroots is very important. It's always spreading the information, and keeping ego out of the way. And the second thing is obviously the people were supporting them. The people were pro. Let's support.
So Australians were supporting their own local products or local produce.
Exactly,
coffee.
Local coffee, and they were willing to support it, and they themselves chose not to support the chains. So that was a decision the people made themselves, rather than a decision made by the government or anything. Authorities, yeah. And each time the chains tried to go in, they just didn't do as well as the local independent cafes. Yeah. So those two factors, and that's why I'm not so keen on government intervention.
On state intervention.
Yeah.
But in the Malaysian context, do you think Malaysian has that hipster awareness?
This is where you kind of refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I guess you only think of these things once you have certain comfort level. You're comfortable at a certain level. I think in certain parts of KL, yes, certain parts of KL you see that the growing culture. If you in fact we're here around the LDP, you can see so many independent cafes along the LDP, and it's more affluent area as well. But I guess we don't really have that kind of patriotic or sense of let's support each other kind of looking past every race, religion, and just support each other. We are stuck on this archipelago and East Malaysia. We are stuck on this piece of land together. So might as well stick it out together. And that kind of thing.
Malaysians, when it comes to brands, they would rather choose Western brands than locals.
They would rather choose a brand which is I think there was an article recently about how local brands have to use international.
Oh, the chili sauce.
International names to kind of appeal to Malaysians.
Who knows? Who knows the East India?
It's actually, yeah.
It's actually a local brand.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. East India company is actually a local
So there are a
brand.
lot of local brands. They don't sound like local brands.
Mm.
They have to not sound like local brands.
Yeah, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, you cannot
how
use the
we
word
can-
hang tua or
Yeah.
kluang or.
I don't know. It's just that to Malaysians, right? When we use our local names, it sort of drops the trust and also the quality.
Yeah.
But then when we actually use like an overseas, like really fancy the English name, they're like, ooh, where's this one coming from?
yeah.
I just want to share, like, just now the magic center that I mentioned earlier. It's actually short for Malaysia Global Innovation and Creativity Center. I'm not sure how much of this would benefit young entrepreneurs like you guys, but I hope that it will, because somehow, I mean, for any young entrepreneurs, you do need some level of support financially when it comes to advice, location, and all that. But let's talk about coffee. We have another 4 minutes. I really want to touch on coffee.
Okay.
If you want to suggest, like, for young people like us to be adventurous, what kind of coffee that you would suggest to
Recommend.
us? Yeah, recommend to us.
I'm personally a big fan of filter coffee. Filter coffee is basically just black coffee. But the idea behind filter coffee is actually very simple. It's just coffee at its purest. You're drinking coffee which is high quality, specialty grade. That means no defects. So what you're tasting is not anything else but the coffee beans itself, the quality behind it, the processing, the roasting, the how it's grown.
So when you say filter, meaning you grind the coffee, the coffee beans, and then you straight away filter it with hot water.
You put it. There are different methods to do it, but you're right, Arlene. It's just very simple. It's just hot water, a filter, and pouring hot water through it. I know it's sounds very simple. Some baristas would kind of take their time with it and have lots of care in going into your drink. And for me, that is the minimalist way of drinking coffee, and there are really simple practical reasons why I started drinking filter coffee. It's just lactose intolerant, less milk, and it's just more enjoyable, and it's not so heavy,
The current coffee that we have, because apparently the 3-in-1 coffee sachet are one of the best sellers when it comes to coffee in Southeast Asia and in particularly in Malaysia. Like people, when they want to have their coffee fix, they would rather do the 3-in-1. It's
Definitely.
very fast.
Yes.
But in Western countries, they would choose to have like a coffee machine and to have that filtered coffee that you mentioned earlier.
It depends on different parts of the world. As again, all cultures have different cultures of making coffee. We have our coffee sock, in kopitiams. The Japanese, they also use a dripper. It's a ritual every morning. They'll drip it and drink their filter coffee. It's just different ways of drinking coffee.
But
out
will
there.
you be advising young people to do away with 3-in-1?
Well, they are
Like, hey, filter all the way.
well, it's really at the end of the day, very practical reasons of why we do what we do. 3-in-1 is super convenient. It's got milk, it's got sugar. I guess it's a full package if you're looking for that. But filter coffee for me is just coffee as simplest, and it's just really beautiful. You just have to try it yourself.
I guess you can get the pure essence of what the pure coffee, taste from it.
Yeah.
And I'm also actually a fan of black coffee when it comes to coffee, because without adding anything, you can just taste the real essence of coffee itself.
The bitterness of it.
Yeah. So some people say, like you said, it will. Don't you think how do you bear the bitterness? It's like, but once you get used to it, you get addicted to it.
And filter coffee doesn't have to be bitter either. It's how darkly roasted. So usually filter coffee can be lighter roasted. Depends on which cafe you go to. And even coffee or coffee, even you mentioned earlier off air, they do offer it. So it's worth trying once in a while. Something different in the cafe. I mean, I think the interesting thing about the cafe experience is most cafes offer a wide range of variety, but not many people realize that you can try different things. They usually just go for the same thing. Yeah.
So how can people get you guys? Let's say they are like, I want to try coffee by CafeHopMY.
We have our side project. It's called Space Bar Coffee. Yes, we do filter coffee ourselves. It's something we really love and really want to share with people.
But you guys don't have a location, so how can they find you guys?
Currently, we're at Red Bean Bag for the rest of the month. From Tuesday.
Where's Red Bean Bag?
At Publica.
Publica.
Yeah. So Tuesday to Friday, 3 to 7. That 3 to 7 will be there. Yeah.
So if you want to have your coffee consultation, you can always get them at Publica. Right?
It seems like coffee is like endless topic to talk about.
Yeah, well,
It is.
definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much,
Thank you
Joachim.
for
And
coming.
Thank you
thanks
for your
for your partner in crime for listening to us.